We're glad you're with us for the Retirement Education Hour. Hi, everyone. I'm Megan Mozak. I'm back in the studio today with financial instructors Kurt Cassidy and Dr. Paul Metler. We have a great program lined out for you today. And of course, we dive into the big topics that surround retirement, that theme of retirement planning. And the goal is to educate you. We want you to be in the know and to have a deep understanding of what it takes to retire successfully in the 21st century. And this is no longer just going on a wing and a prayer. It does take proper planning. And that's what we dive into on our program each and every week. And you're welcome at any point to go to our library, research by topic, listen to a previous show, share it with a friend. I just want to remind you that this very program is available to you wherever you find your favorite podcast. Simply search for the name of the program, Retirement Education Hour. And throughout our show, we're going to be telling you how you can take this even a step further. That's right. You can get a front row seat to a live event. These are courses, retirement planning courses, and they're like a master's level course, appropriately taught at major colleges and universities so that you can walk away having the most confidence possible in your retirement future. So be listening for that. We're going to tell you how you can get registered to reserve your seat. Today, well, we're going to do something a little bit different. We're going to tell you some things that you've probably been hearing, so they say. And we're going to also share with you the reality of what you need to be listening to. And I'm excited to dive into this today because, as I was looking at some of the material, Kirk and Paul, a lot of this stuff, boy, it's everywhere, isn't it?
Well, it is. And so the advantage, and I think we share this just about every show, the advantage of us being a national charity that teaches advanced retirement planning in major universities is we have the ability to be objective and sort of, if you will, lift the curtain behind the perception that our industry tries to create. And it makes it very difficult for the consumer. I mean, I think at the core, that's the value of the information that we share to the general public, that we help you to better understand, because everyone is really starting to, they're saying the same things. So how do I translate what they're saying and prove that they're actually doing? That is so difficult. And so I think Paul, who put this content together today for us to share, I think his message is so here are the things they say, here are the things they don't say, but also what are the motivating factors of them saying and not saying some things. So I think that's what we're going to tackle. At the core of this, we will get to the reasons why they say the things they're saying, and then, of course, things that they should be saying. But more importantly, how do you translate to know if they really do the things they say they do, or do they not, Paul? Right?
Yeah, it's sort of, in thinking about the show, I was going back to my youth and thinking of one of my favorite movies, shows, The Wizard of Oz. And I love at the end, right, they sort of go behind the scenes and undrape it and see who's really behind this wizard. And you get to see the real thing, right? I guess that was my thinking here is that I thought it would be good, it'd be helpful if we could sort of, take the curtain off and show people a little bit about what's behind the scene and try to provide some education about what, the title of this is So They Say, right? What are the things they, meaning our industry, tells people, and what should they be really listening to? And I think there's a lot of good information here. I'm hoping it will be very helpful.
Paul, what's unique and what's valuable for us is, we've taught over 10,000 people in major universities with our 8-hour courses. We have hundreds of thousands of people consuming our podcasts, TV shows, our webinars, our white papers. So we get to experience and hear a lot of the different things that people are being told, and we can really help them to know what's really driving this and what they really should be focusing on. So at the end of the day, our goal is to encourage you to make a $29 donation to charity to attend one of these 8-hour classes that are taught at major universities. So if you'd like to register, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org.
So, one of the key components of understanding what's behind the curtain, if you will, is understanding, and I think most people know this, right? That, the goal of financial advisors is to gather assets, right? I mean, at the end of the day, that's how they make their money. And we've said this before, but the cheapest, most cost-effective way for an advisor to gather assets, because the more they gather, the more they make. The most cost-effective, inexpensive, cheapest way for them to gather assets is for you to spend less money, right? The less, right? The less you spend, the more they make, and it doesn't cost them anything. There's no there's no cost. There's no marketing cost. It doesn't cost them anything for you to spend less and they make more. So you always need to keep that in the back of your mind. When you listen to advertisements, when you talk to people, keep in the back of your mind that if the goal is for you to spend less, there's one reason, and that's because they benefit. And all the things we're going to talk about today, a lot of it has to do with that that goal.
The goal of, and Paul, of course, the way they accomplish the goal of you spending less is creating fear, right?
Exactly.
All the general rules of thumb come from protect your principal. You should work longer. You should only take 3 or 4% withdrawal rates. I mean, it's retirees should be afraid of inflation, runaway inflation. It's all nonsense. It's all nonsense, and that's the purpose of the charity. That's the purpose of our educational courses, is to help you filter and translate what they're saying, help you to understand why they are saying what they're saying to you, and then how do I find the right teams, the right people to help us accomplish the types of retirement that we're looking for. So, again, we're going to strongly encourage you. The first step before you make any investment decisions, any pension decisions, lump sum, retirement decisions, before you make Social Security decisions, any annuity decisions, any investment decisions, you have to first educate yourself by going to what is like a master's level course in a university setting. It's an 8-hour course taught at the University of Michigan, Eastern Michigan University, Michigan State University, Oakland University, the University of Missouri, Columbia College, just to name a few. And we stream them live from the university, so wherever you're at in the country, you can attend. These courses are taught in 2 evenings, 4 hours each evening, or one intensive 8-hour day on a Saturday. To register, you're going to go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org. Thanks for listening to the Retirement Education Hour. Be sure to follow or subscribe when listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And now, back to the show.
We've been talking today about some of the things you might hear from the financial industry. And we're trying to separate what's important, what's actually maybe an attempt to try to get you down the wrong path, which can be really problematic on your road to retirement. And I want to talk about this issue of assets and what the financial industry's real intent is around your assets.
Well, there's 2 ways primarily our industry, people in our industry get paid, the financial service industry. So there's commission-based and then there's fee-based. So And there's a few other ways, but that's the primary 2 ways that people get paid. And some, unfortunately, actually get paid both. They sell you something, collect a commission, and then they wrap a fee and charge a fee annually to manage that thing that they already got a commission on, which we would argue is problematic. And it's something we talk about in the class to help you identify if that's happening to you or if someone you're looking to hire is doing something like that. But at the end of the day, the number one goal for the financial service industry is to what we call gather assets, retain you as a client, and help you to grow those assets as large as possible, because the larger your assets are and the larger your assets grow, the more money they tend to make. They will make. And so I think this was Paul's point in the last segment. There is no incentive to teach you to retire earlier, to make you feel comfortable retiring earlier. There is no incentive to make you have less anxiety and less fear in retirement so that you'll spend more money and spend more freely, because the more you spend in retirement, the less they make. The less profitable their business is, the less valuable their business is. If they wanted to sell their business, the more you spend, the less they make, which at the core is really problematic. And you need to understand that all of you 60 plus years old can spend more than 3 or 4% withdrawal rates per year and not worry. There are ways to accomplish that with proper effective planning. But again, that's the next problem, right? Proper effective planning requires a lot of time, lots of time. Actually, we teach that in the class. We show you what a real comprehensive retirement plan looks like, and it would take professionals, CFAs, CFPs, CPAs. It takes them 30, 40, 50, sometimes 100 hours to build out an individual plan. So what is their motivation to spend all that time planning to show you how to spend more while they're making less, Paul? It doesn't make sense for them. It's not a good business model.
No, it's not. And it costs them money to get you all to sign up for them. There's a lot of money in advertisement. It costs a lot to get a new client. But once they have you, if you spend less, it costs nothing for them. I was in doing this topic, I did some research on advertisements, TV, newspaper, online, from the top huge big wirehouses. And I watched several of them, and every single one has this underlying message. What do you think the message is, Kirk?
Protect your principal, grow your assets.
That's right. Be afraid, protect your principal, don't overspend, worry, 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 worry. I mean, I'll be honest with you, I watched them and I was afraid to be at the end of it. They're effective. They're effective. But underlying it all, and we're not here sitting here saying all advisors are evil. It's not about that. It is not about the individuals. These firms, their goal are to make money. And if you take the next couple of weeks as you're watching TV and look at the commercials, look at the advertisements from the top huge wirehouses, and all of them are about this.
Of course, right? I mean, so I think one of the most valuable lessons that people who spend some time listening to our radio shows, watching our TV shows, especially those who attend the class, the 8-hour course, is they'll learn that they can retire earlier because they can spend a lot more money. They can spend 6, 7, 8% withdrawal rates out of their investments, and they can do it in a way that they would never outlive their income. There's ways to design your retirement plan so that you have a controlled spend down of your principal without the fear of outliving your income. There's ways to do it. And then in addition, we don't even talk about the tax efficiencies. I mean, proper tax planning for most of the people attending our classes and listening to our show are hundreds of thousands. For some of the $10 to $20 million families, millions of dollars of tax savings. But all of that planning requires two things. It requires time. And the more time they spend on you building your plan and working on your plan, it's less time they can sell somebody else and less time they can spend trying to gather more assets. And two, the more freedom they give you to spend down your money, the less money they make. So what motivates them to help you to feel less anxious, to let you spend more, get you to retire earlier? There is none. And that's why we're going to encourage you again and again and again, every segment, to sign up for one of our 8-hour courses. We are a charity. We've taught over 10,000 people. All you have to do is make a $29 donation to charity. It's like a master's level course. It's designed for that $1 to $20 million families. This is advanced. Please register for the 8-hour course that are held at major universities. If you'd like to register, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org. Listening from outside Michigan or Missouri? We stream courses live from the universities so you can attend anywhere in the country. Go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org to sign up. And now back to the show.
One of the things that the financial industry often talks about, Kirk and Paul, running out of money in retirement. How should we be looking at that?
Well, so they say you should be worried about running out of money. So that is the number one fear that the financial service, the big wirehouses keep telling everyone. They almost condition you into feeling that way because they tell you that's the number one fear you have. And if you don't fear that, then what's wrong with me? I should fear that. That right? Oh my God, maybe then it's really a problem. I should be worried about that. So I thought we'd take a few minutes to talk about one of the motivations for them to suggest that should be your number one fear. Because really, what's crazy is they know the data, Paul. The data says that you're going to die with 80% of the wealth you have today. So when you die, you will die with 80% of the wealth that you have right now as you're approaching or entering retirement, which is crazy. Because for many of you, that isn't your goal. Some of you don't even have children. Legacy isn't important. Legacy isn't a priority to you. So if that isn't your goal, why aren't they teaching you how to spend more of your money? We keep hammering this point because the less you spend, the more they make. And Paul, I think the other piece of this is over the last 10 years, what are we hearing? Listen, you guys, I'm glad Paul brought this to your attention is start paying attention to the radio commercials, the TV commercials, the social media. Now everyone is a retirement expert. Everyone's talking about retirement planning. All of a sudden, over the last 5 to 10 years, everyone's an expert on retirement. Where were they before? They were an expert on helping you grow your money, but now they're an expert on retirement. Why? Because we have more people retiring than ever before and the greatest transfer of wealth. They know the assets. The quickest and easiest way to gather assets is with the baby boomers right now because that's where all the assets are. So now they're focused on you, the baby boomer. And frankly, you can't be both, Paul. You can't be a specialist in accumulating your wealth and also a specialist in the distribution of your wealth. Those are very different strategies. They require very different planning techniques. In fact, retirement planning takes a tremendous amount of time to manage income around market volatility so that you can spend that 6, 7, 8% withdrawal rates, Paul.
Yeah, I mean, I do think, Kirk, I think we want to clarify one thing. Obviously, if you have $200,000 saved for retirement and you're 60 years old, it's a different story, right? This isn't about you, right? But for the people listening to the show, the people who come to our classes, these people have accumulated quite a bit of wealth. $700,000, $1 million, $2 million, $5 million. That's the group we're talking about. And if you notice, the whole message, if you really sit back, the whole message that these large wirehouses are sending, that the financial service industry is sending, the whole message is about who is responsible for what. At the end of the day, they have shifted responsibility to you all. They want you to change your lifestyle. Rather than do the work to build the plan so that you can spend as much as you want and enjoy your retirement without fear, what they tell you is you can spend until the market goes bad. And then what do they tell you? They tell you to spend less, right? They've shifted the responsibility. They want you to do the work. They want you to spend less so they don't have to do the work. And all of this is about money. It's all about gathering assets, spending less so that they can win. And, the reality is, and you may know the numbers better, Kirk, than I, the reality is for most of you, you could spend way more than they're telling you can spend. And even when the market's doing poorly, continue to spend without worry. But at the end of the day, that takes retirement planning. It takes true planning.
Paul, you so nailed it. Look, they have shifted the responsibility. What they're going to tell you is you can take 3 or 4%, and now we can collaborate about your risk tolerance. Your risk tolerance is irrelevant. It's what do you have, and can it give you what you want? And what you need to give you what you want should drive your risk tolerance. So they have shifted the responsibility by telling you you can only take 3 or 4%. And every time we have a major market event, you should back down your spending and protect your principal. That is insane. That means throughout your retirement, we're going to have 4 to 7 major market events. And that means every time we have a major market event or you don't like someone being elected, you're going to change your spending patterns. You're going to reduce you're not going to go on vacation. You're going to cancel your country club memberships. You're not going to do your home improvement projects. That is not freedom in retirement. An effective retirement plan that anticipates these market events. They're going to happen. We know where they're going to happen. So as long as you have a plan designed to have the ability to pivot where you're taking your income from, you can have the 6, 7, 8% withdrawal rates. But all of that requires time, money, and gives you freedom to spend more, which makes them make less. Attend one of our 8-hour classes, either in person, which is best at the universities, or if you're out of state and you want to attend, you can virtually stream the classes. If you'd like to attend, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That is retirementplanningedu.org.
Classes are forming now. Go to retirementplanningedu.org to register. Again, that's retirementplanningedu.org. Use the promo code PODCAST to receive 50% off your tuition. And now, back to the show.
We've been talking today about the financial industry and some of the things you might be hearing from them, and maybe a mindset shift that we all need to make sure we're getting the right information. And one of the things that we hear often is that the financial industry, Kirk and Paul, they just know how to better invest than you. Is that accurate?
Yeah. So they say they can invest better than you can. And the truth is, none of us can manage money. I mean, at our levels, nothing beats just buying the index over any extended period of time. And, you know, I often wonder, I watch people on CNBC. I meet money managers that manage hundreds of billions of dollars, literally, on a pretty regular basis. I know them all pretty well. And they all have their philosophies on what they're doing right now based upon whatever data. And it is remarkable how consistently they underperform the index. I'll give you some statistics to prove that no one can manage money, stock pick, market time better than the index. Here's some really quick data points. First, you all need to know that 40% of mutual funds fail within 10 years. Second, the average actively managed mutual funds over the last 30 years is performing at about 4%. The S&P 500 at over 10%. Here's a really incredible statistic. All these experts, these money managers, there's never been one of them in the history of mutual funds or money manager, never one manager that has been able to stay in the top quartile for 5 consecutive years, meaning stay in the top 25% of performance of their peers for 5 consecutive years. It's remarkable. But think about the number of people that wouldn't have jobs or in this business if they believed what the truth was. So they all have this secret sauce that they're trying to sell you that they can manage the money better than you can or better than the person down the street. And the truth is, managing the money is the easiest part of retirement planning, Paul. It's the easiest. It's not what drives performance. I mean, just buy the index and hold it for a long period of time, and no one's going to beat that. Where the expertise comes in, the planning comes in for people within 5 years of retirement through retirement, is where and when they are taking income from their different portfolios that they own. It's not the portfolios they own, it's where they're taking the income from. See, people think you're going to manage your investments based upon market conditions in retirement, that they think that's what's going to drive performance. It's not. It's where do I take my money from when the market is up and my portfolios are up? Where do I take my money from when they're down? And when do I rebalance my portfolios? And I can tell you one secret. I'll give a little secret out. You're never going to rebalance your portfolios when the market's down when you're in retirement. That is the mistake. And if you can manage income properly, instead of managing investments, you manage the income properly, then you can have 6, 7, 8% withdrawal rates. But Paul, that goes back to a lot more time to plan, a lot more time to implement, which equals a lot less time to sell and a lot less time to gather assets. And the better you are at planning, the more you're going to spend. The more you spend, the less they make. There's no incentive for them to do those things, Paul.
So they say.
So they say.
So they say. So, I don't want to be dramatic, but this is like a dagger in the heart.
That's my job.
What'd you say?
Sorry. That's my job to be dramatic. Sorry.
Yeah, I don't want to be dramatic. I'll let you do it, but let me just say this. What you just said, and you said a lot, but what you just said is like a dagger in the heart of the financial service industry. Because if at the end of the day, the financial service industry, if their goal is, this is what they say, is to invest your money, and if at the end of the day they are significantly underperforming just buying the index, what value do they have, right? So, if your whole identity is about, I have the secret sauce and I'm going to invest your money and I'm going to buy it at the right time, I'm going to sell it at the right time, I know something you don't know. That's why you should hire me. If it turns out that I'm not only am I not better, in fact, I'm significantly worse than you just go and passively invest in index funds, why do you need me, right? Obviously, we're going to talk about at the end, we're going to talk about retirement planning and finding a team of people to build you a plan. That's a whole different story. But if you're simply hiring somebody to invest your money, it's a sad truth. At the end of the day, you really don't need an advisor to do that.
No. But pretending to have a secret sauce or having a system and being compelling and convincing that they understand this better than you or better than the person down the street, so that's why you should give them their assets. That is the least expensive way for them to gather more assets, and that requires a lot less time than actually building an income plan, retirement plan, a tax plan, projecting out for 30 years, running hundreds of iterations to find the most efficient path through retirement so you can spend more, retire earlier, and pay less taxes. Right? It is so backwards. It's so frustrating. It's the reason why the charity exists, to help you get educated, to understand the levers that actually drive success and performance in retirement, and then to give you the tools to be able to go hire and find the right teams to help you. That's what the charity's job is. It's that filter to understand what is important, what things you need to focus on, and then how do you go find that team? Because you got to find a team. You can't do this yourself. You're not going to do this yourself. So attend one of these 8-hour courses taught in 2 evenings, 4 hours each evening, or a full Saturday at many major universities and colleges in your area. And if they are not in your area, then you can stream those classes live from the university. But if you live in those areas, please come in person. It's a whole different game when you're there in person. There's a lot of advanced material. It is a lot in a short period of time. If you'd like to register, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org. To find our latest white papers and webinars, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org. And remember to subscribe or follow wherever you listen to your podcasts. And now back to the show.
Now, Kirk and Paul, we've been talking a lot about what the financial industry says, but there are some things that they don't say that you believe they should. What are those items?
Well, so you notice I start almost every segment with well. It's an interesting tendency I have. I just caught. So what they're not saying, and research, academia has been screaming this for years, right? The number one risk to your retirement, no one is really talking about. The number one risk to your retirement is something called sequence of returns risk. And as I describe this to you, and it's not easy to describe, but as I describe this to you, I want to make sure you guys all remember that we are a national charity. We have taught over 10,000 people between the ages of 50 and call it 75 years old, maybe 80 years old. We are a national charity designed to help prepare you and educate you for retirement so that you can go out and find the right teams to help you to have the retirement you've earned, okay? So the number one risk to retirement that people aren't going to talk to you about is sequence of returns risk. And I'm going to try to keep it simple. Sequence of returns risk is once you start to retire and you start taking distributions out of your investments, you're taking a distribution. To take a distribution, that means you're going to have to sell shares. And when the market goes down, you are locking in those losses. And you are forced to take your distributions once you reach a certain age because of required minimum distributions. So to take your income compounded with a market loss makes it that much, compounds the losses, makes it that much more difficult to break even. Using simple math, I'm going to use simple math. If your portfolio went down 50%, the next year you would need 100% to break even. If you had a 60-40 portfolio in 2008, during the financial crisis, a 60-40 portfolio like most of you in retirement are going to have, your portfolio would have lost, call it about 32 to 37%. So call it 35%. Oh, and then you took 4% out to live on or 5% out to live on. Now you are down 40%. To break even, you will need about 53% the next year to break even. You cannot recover from losses. So we have to manage where we take our distributions from. And the secret to driving real returns and performance in retirement is being able to have different accounts to pivot to depending on the market conditions. So if the market is down, we are never, ever, ever going to take our distributions from the portfolios that are down. We're going to pivot to an account that is not correlated to the market to pull our income out of during those years. In that way, we're not locking in those losses. So that's trick one. And I want to throw it to you, Paul, but really quickly. Trick two to driving performance in driving success in retirement so that you can have 6, 7, 8% withdrawal rates is when the market is down, we're also not going to rebalance our portfolio. So our safe money areas, the areas where we're like treasuries, really low duration bonds, or sometimes even insured accounts. When the market is down and your safety accounts are running low, we are not going to rebalance and sell our high-risk accounts when the market is down. We have to wait for our high-risk accounts to recover back to even or above even before we rebalance and put money back into the buckets to create your income streams. So knowing that we're going to have 4 to 7 major market events, Paul, that's going to require us to pre-plan those accounts so that we can pivot to them. Sorry, Paul, I took most of the segment.
No, it's okay. Let me just say, I just want to say two quick things. First of all, everybody who's listening to us, Kirk, understands this. Intuitively, every person understands you don't want to sell when the market's crashing. Everyone intuitively understands this. So it begs the question, right, why doesn't it happen? Why are advisors not doing it? I met someone yesterday who came to the class, wants to retire at the end of this year, with a very large brokerage firm. I'm not going to say who it is. All of their money, for the most part, every single account is invested in the market, all in equities. There are no pivot accounts at all. And it begs the question, what is their advice? When I asked this couple, so if you're retiring next year, do you know what account you're going to take it from? No one has talked to him about this. No one has planned it at all.
Paul, you got it. You guys listening have to know that how most everyone is going to handle your retirement is they're going to have a bucket of money, 60-40. When you want your 5% or 4%, whatever it is you're taking to live on, you're going to take the 4% out. Even if the market's down, they're going to take it out of that account, locking in those losses, and then they're going to rebalance the portfolio so that they can have more money for you to take the next year. You don't want to rebalance when the market's down. They auto rebalance. In fact, they sell that feature like, look at us, we have a special rebalancing system. No. That is the wrong way. But to execute proper retirement income planning is very time intensive. It is custom. It's unique for each individual person. That is not a profitable business model. This is why you got to go to our 8-hour classes so we can help you find the right teams to help you. If you'd like to register, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org.
And we'll be back. There's plenty more Retirement Education Hour coming up next.
Thanks for listening to the Retirement Education Hour. Be sure to follow or subscribe when listening on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your podcasts. And now, back to the show.
Kirk and Paul, we've been talking about the financial industry. and the things they say. One of the things they like to say, so they say, is that we have to tell them what our risk tolerance is. What's your view of that?
So again, remind you, we are a national charity promoting and teaching retirement education. And one of the big topics that we cover is the way they position, when I say they, the financial service industry, they position how retirement planning is going to be a collaboration. And it is to a degree, right? You should be able to tell your teams, how much income you want in retirement, how quickly you'd like to retire, how much you'd like to leave if legacy is important to you, to your children or your loved ones, or if charities are important. It's like your goals and your concerns is the collaboration. But the idea that you are going to dictate your risk tolerance is sort of silly. And I know this kind of rubs people a little wrong over the radio, but when you come to the class, it will make perfect sense. Like the plan, your retirement plan, someone that actually builds a comprehensive retirement plan for you, if they're really building, and you'll learn that in the class, if you really have one, what it really looks like, what it should have included. But the plan tells us how much risk you should take with different buckets of money, right? It depends on when you're going to spend those dollars. It depends on pivot accounts. So this whole idea to collaborate around what your risk tolerance is sort of silly, or what you want to invest in. You're not qualified to decide what you're going to want to invest in. And frankly, the advisor is not qualified to tell you what you should invest in. The plan, your specific plan, not the cookie cutter plan, but your specific plan should drive what you buy, when you buy it, when you take Social Security, should you take the lump sum versus the pension, everything. What your risk tolerance is all driven on what do I need to give me what I want and when do I want it. That's it. Everything is driven off of that. And that's what the class is going to teach you. You all need a plan. None of you have a plan. eMoney, Money Guide Pro, those dials of probability, a 4% withdrawal rate going across those are not plans. I promise you, if you want to see what a real plan looks like, go to the charity's website and watch the sample plan webinar so you can see what a real retirement plan should look like. This is what we teach in the class. So you are informed well enough to go find the right people to help you, because you are not and should not. You $1 to $10 million, $1 to $20 million households should not be doing this yourselves. As you age, you can't. And there are very few advisors around the country that are qualified to do this. So we're going to help you as a charity, show you where to find those advisors. That's the purpose of the class. So you understand the levers that need to be included in a plan, how critical tax planning. Everyone says they do tax planning now. Everyone's talking about Roth conversion and they do a free tax analysis for you. It's garbage. They're not really. The plan drives it. And someone has to map out 25 years of a plan to tell you, should you be Roth converting? How much you should, not filling a bracket, not Roth converting at all. It's how do I pay the least amount of taxes over the next 20, 25 years of my retirement? That's what's going to drive it. And I got to run hundreds and hundreds of iterations to find the most efficient path. Paul, I know I said a lot, especially around risk tolerance. It drives me crazy. What do you want?
I like the subject of risk tolerance because, I think it feels good, right? Your advisor wants you to feel good. They want you to feel like you're participating. Imagine going to a surgeon and the surgeon saying to you, how much risk do you want to take, right? No, it's the surgeon's job to figure out, based on your health, how much risk can you afford to take. At the end of the day, once you retire, it's not how you feel. It's not based on your personality. It's not based on your emotions. It's really based on your plan. At the end of the day, that's what's going to drive your risk. Different plans allow different amounts of risk. It all depends on your unique plan. And Kirk, this is one of the, I think, really important features of the class, because I think people often believe that they're driving this. And I think once people realize that your asset allocation, how your investments are allocated, how much risk you're exposed, it's all about when you're taking income, how you're taking income, from which accounts. And that's all driven by the plan, right?
Yeah, the plan will drive all these decisions, not your feelings. Because look, Paul makes a great point. The older you get, the more scared you're going to get. People who are younger don't appreciate what their relationship with money is going to become as they age, and they have to pay themselves, and cognitively things begin to decline and change and slow. Our charity, we've taught tens of thousands of people. We know how you're going to behave. Older people aren't cheap. They get scared. That's why they spend less. That's why they leave 80% of the wealth they retired with when they die to their next generation, because of fear. To allow your emotions to drive how your plan is invested isn't logical. The plan, what do I need to give me what I want, should drive how much risk you're taking and when you're taking it and where you're taking it. So please register for one of our 8-hour classes taught over 2 evenings or 1 full day in many universities. All you have to do is make a $29 donation to charity. If you'd like to register, go to retirementplanningedu.org. That's retirementplanningedu.org.
Retirement Education Foundation is a fiscally sponsored program of United Charitable, a registered 501c3 public charity. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any insurance discussed in this show is backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This radio show is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be construed as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual's situation. Retirement Education Foundation is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Retirement Education Foundation. This radio show is paid for by the Retirement Education Foundation.